Investing in all things BEE. I'm joined in studio now by Riaz Gardee. He's in studio with me now to discuss the performance of Vodacom's Yethu BEE share scheme. Now that's on the back, obviously, Riaz, of the Vodacom quarterly update that we received today. Dip in revenues slightly, but it is a very strong data story for BEE investors. Can they rest easy knowing that Vodacom is still staying afloat?
Look, as you know, Vodacom is one of the dominant telecoms players in the market, and there's been a big switch from voice to data, and that's been coming through the numbers as well. Specifically regarding the BEE shareholders, I think the important thing is they own Vodacom SA. So the results that have come out is Vodacom Group, which is a JSE listed company, of which Vodacom SA is a subsidiary.
Oh, okay. So we need to get into that nitty-gritty. Yes. But the South African market, is it still growing? We see them adding on to their subscriber numbers. I think it's growing at a slower rate. I mean, there are regulatory issues, there are strains on the consumer, but broadly speaking, as the market is amongst a few players, Vodacom has a good customer base to work off. Let's touch on the share price movement. So the BEE share, Yethu, is sitting at around 61 or 60 rand a piece. Now this is versus Vodacom as a share price sitting at 131. Right. So clearly you're getting value for money here. I think that's the important point that I would like to make, that the Vodacom price at 131 and the BEE share at 61 are not directly correlated at all. Because Vodacom Group owns other operations like Tanzania, DRC, Lesotho, etc. And this is only the South African operation. So Yethu basically owns 3.44% in Vodacom SA. And Vodacom Group, which is the one listed on the JSE, about 85 to 90% of that makes up Vodacom SA. So as an investor then, the consideration that I'm paying for this 3.44% that you allude to in SA, you still maintain that that is a good investment? So if you unpack the numbers, what that translates to is about 100 rand per share the Yethu is worth. So basically the 3.44% stake in Vodacom Group is worth about 5.6 billion rand. Then they've got debt of about 3.2 billion. So after you knock off the debt, the equity value is approximately 2.4 billion. So if you divide that per share, that comes to roughly 95 to 100 rand per share. And it's trading at 60 rand per share on the exchange. It's a discount. It's a discount, but there are reasons for the discount. I mean, for example, one of the reasons is there's a 4-year locking period remaining. So you can only trade it in a very limited pool for the next 4 years. So that's one of the reasons that's driving the discount. And just on that, does this mean that once that 4-year period lapses, that you'll have ownership of Vodacom Group shares or Vodacom SA only? Yeah, you would only have Vodacom SA because the BEE is done at that level, at South Africa level. So that's your investment. So after the lock-in period, you would have shares. Well, you still have shares in that, but you could then trade it freely to anybody. Let's touch on the performance, though. I think when this initially launched, the shares were purchased for about, what, 20 rand a piece? 25 rand. They came out at 25 and currently at 60 rand. So that translates to roughly about 16% per year return, which is not bad. And I think, if over time as it unlocks, the value could go up. But the FSB trial or regulations regarding OTC platforms is still a significant threat here. What do BEE shareholders need to know about this? So I think for BEE shareholders, that's an important point. Last year, the FSB came out and said that these are unregulated exchanges, the OTC platforms, and they need to apply for licenses. So what they've done in the interim is they've given temporary certification for them to continue. But that's only for another couple of months. So it depends the outcome on that, whether they need to convert to a license, whether they're allowed to trade with these exemptions going forward or not. So I think we're a bit unclear on what the outcome of that will be. So in other words, shareholders need to sit tight and wait. But when you take a look at what's been done by PSG, I think with Tembeka Capital, the unbundling that they've done there, do you think that the shareholders got a good deal with regard to that particular transaction? I think the reason they also did that was much fewer shareholders in Tembeka. Vodacom has over 100,000 shareholders, so it's quite widely held in terms of the number of people. And I think the shareholders don't need to be concerned that they will lose the shares. It's just the tradability thereof.
So if there's no exchange or no platform, then they need to probably find a counterparty to their transaction, which obviously makes it much more difficult. So ideally, you want it to be in a regulated environment, so all the checks and balances can be there.
But liquidity is still an issue, and it's been an issue when it comes to BEE shares.
But I think perhaps, you know, it could also be that the BEE shareholders are holding on to the shares until the end of the period, so that may be driving the illiquid nature of it as well. But I think also the large number of shareholders in Vodacom makes the individual shareholders small. So therefore, there's mostly small trades happening in this specific share because of that.
Riaz, I just want to steal a quick one quickly. Should government, we've heard in the recent reports that government is looking to sell its stakes, strategic stakes in certain assets to help beef up funding for state-owned entities like Eskom. If it does sell its share in Vodacom, will this have a significant impact on the BEE transaction?
So I don't think it will have a direct impact on the BEE transaction because government owns about 13% in Vodacom Group again.
Oh, okay.
And that stake is probably worth about 25 to 30 billion. And the reason why they would consider selling it is because it's you know, a small stake in a company which they don't have direct participation, whereas they probably need the money for other projects like power, etc. So they may consider it in that regard.
Riaz, thank you so much for your time and analysis of the BEE market space. That was Riaz Gardee there. He's our BEE analyst and also an investment principal from MMI Holdings.